Non-Americans who moved to the US, what are some social customs that have been the hardest for you to get used to? People's visceral reaction to the C-bomb. Relax, cunt, it's a term of endearment. Don't need to be from outside the US. I'm from the South and going up north is a culture shock. Everything in the South is so ungodly slow. Northerner here, and the weirdest part of traveling the States is how in the South people seem to be really nice but kind of generic about it. In the North we're kind, but it is more let me help this guy out instead of oh this guy's cool I'm gonna be really nice. I've lived in the North for some time and I don't think I could ever live south of Nebraska because of the culture. In this thread, non-Americans giving their honest answers and Americans arguing with them. Cause everyone is answering about different parts of America. According to my parents, it was people giving them thumbs up. In their country of origin, thumbs up equals middle finger in the US. So they kept jumping thinking they were being flipped off by random people. Took years for them to get used to it and understand no one was trying to insult them. Did they ever visit their old country and accidentally thumb someone off? American self-defensiveness is through the roof compared to anyone else I've ever met. As demonstrated in this very thread, it is impossible to have a conversation about anything not being perfect in this country without people going oh but in China it is so much worse, oh but it is like that everywhere in the world, we are the beacon of democratic light, or similar. Most commonly from people who effectively know very little about the rest of the world, and take their own propaganda as knowledge. Other countries I've been to, people are quite interested to discuss how things there compare to other places, their local failings and strengths, and ways they think things could be improved, and so on. It shows very much in personal behavior as well, in acting as if because someone disagrees with them about a point, that they don't like them as a person, or look down on them. Disagreement is dislike. Also why instead of having good arguments people fall into personal attacks. They're even more defensive in China. As a guy, sports. American sports. It is the language of men and I just can't fit in. I love sports but my sports are very much European, which is football, soccer. Been here 36 years and I still don't get American football, baseball, or basketball, although I can watch basketball at a pinch. Have you tried hockey? It's pretty lit. I mean, I'm a woman, so I don't get the whole deal with men and sports here really either tbh, and I just can't get into big sports much, except for hockey. Your Canadian citizenship is waiting for you at your nearest border crossing. My wife is an immigrant so I'll pass on a couple that she struggled with. Potluck dinners. Inviting people over to your house for a meal and then telling them to bring the food just isn't culturally acceptable in her background. She understands how the variety of foods can be exceptional and the amount of food automatically adjusts to the number of people, but it's a cultural form of hospitality that runs counter to offering what you have to your guests. The way many American families raise their children until age 18, then send them out the door to make it or beak it in the world. In many other countries, you never stop helping your children by paying for more education, vo-tech or college/university, and trying to avoid student loans. They always have a place to live free of rent, and are quite involved in everyday life of the parents, even if just by phone. The way Americans are so informal in addressing elders and people with the title doctor seems disrespectful. Titles would always be used and first names are only for people of approximately the same age and background. Women have many freedoms and professional opportunities that are not open to them in some countries. This is a good attribute of the USA. Pounds, ounces, feet, miles. I could never get the hang of it. Same thing happens when Americans go, well, anywhere else. I just still don't even have a concept of how long a mile is, and I lived in the US for 3 years. I completely acknowledge that I'm dumb, though. Younger people calling adults by just their first name. I'm from the Caribbean so can't help but referring to people as Mr. or Ms. even if I'm familiar with them. That's a regional thing. I was raised in the Midwest by people from the South, and I couldn't break the habit of calling people Mr. or Ms. or uncle/auntie if they're elderly, until I was in my 20s, despite that not being a thing in the Midwest. All these answers would be very region specific. Going from one state to another is like going from one country to another. America isn't one broad thing that can be easily generalized, it's a mixing pot of ideas and cultures. It's a bunch of squirrels in a trench coat. That fake condescending voice people use. I'm not a toddler looking for his mama, talk like a normal person. How hard it is to make friends in the USA. It seemed pretty easy from where I came, Europe, but after 20 years in the USA, I still don't have friends here. I'm an American and can agree with this. Unless you were friends since childhood, no one needs to make new friends, like there's a friend quota. Unless you two absolutely hit it off during the first conversation. Then you're allowed to be best friends. If there's one thing about you that doesn't match their way of life, they are most likely to end it quickly. It used to not seem that way growing up before smartphones and social media. I think those two things have ruined how people communicate with each other. Exactly. I've been in the US more than half of my life and I still struggle. Everyone adores me when they meet me, but they still could not be bothered to include me in their friends groups. Unless you move to a place that has a lot of transplants, like Denver, Louisiana, etc. Chicago was just the worst, super cliquey and everyone stays with their people. I think the only way is to date someone in a group and steal all their friends lol. I still don't know how to get invited to parties, so there's that. Also the drug TV ads with the long disclaimers while showing video of happy people living their lives. Really weird. The best way to get invited to parties that I know of is to throw your own parties and invite people. Pick a random holiday and throw a themed party around it, Halloween, St. Patrick's Day, etc. Bonus points if it is a holiday from your home country that no one knows about here. People tend to return the favor, and you get invited to their parties. Just maybe wait a year, COVID and all. Can confirm. Would definitely go to drug TV ad guy's house party, and bring booze. There is a toot your own horn culture here in my experience that I find hard to deal with, especially in the workplace. It's not usually a typical someone saying they're good at something, it's more about making themselves out to be better and top dog. I'm from the UK and I'd say we are kind of modest. Also, writing the date, I just can't get used to writing it with the month first. I've never really been one to toot my own horn. I'm really good at not tooting my own horn, I'm probably the best at it, like top dog level not tooting horn greatness. Comment typed the 8th of December 2020. I hate you and everything you represent. I'm from New Zealand. Lack of vacation days. Weird as shit health system tied to employment. Food portions. Otherwise it is a pretty easy adjustment. God yes. That and the fact that so many people take themselves so seriously. I'm a Brit. I've been here for 8 years now. That Fahrenheit nonsense. I just never bothered to learn, always converted to Celsius, and then I ended up moving to Canada. I knew it would pay off to never learn. Fahrenheit asks people how they feel, Celsius asks water how it feels. Asks pure distilled water at 1 atmosphere pressure 0 meters altitude controlled environment how it feels. People saying they will pray for me. Either in aggression to insult me by saying I need to be prayed for, as sometimes I can be an asshole or a victim of prejudice. Or, they are trying to be empathetic when told of a sad/unfortunate situation. Of course I don't ever doubt that they'll remember. As a Canadian this sounds incredibly strange and intrusive. I will pray for you, it's creepy. It seems dishonest insofar as the motivation often seems self-serving, to boost their ego. It makes me suspicious when I hear it. Growing up and living in the western US, people get pretty uncomfortable or angry if someone says, I'll pray for you. For a lot of different reasons. The crazy giant gaps in bathroom stalls. It drives me insane. My partner told me that it's there to prevent people from doing drugs/having sex. But I still don't understand why I need to see everyone while I poop. I'm from Israel. Everything else in this thread is either regional or overblown. This however is dead on. Seriously, why can't out restrooms have real walls and doors? Other countries have proven it's possible. What's standing in our way? If I ever run for president, this will be my #1 campaign issue. Sounds more like your #2 issue. Sales tax not being included in the price, got pretty used to it after 4 years, but it still occasionally caught me off guard. Healthcare bills. Tailgating on highway, even people complaining about tailgaters were themselves often tailgating. Porch sitting, people sitting on their porch and watching passers-by. Distances, drove coast to coast, I thought it would never end. Most men being pretty knowledgeable about cars. Drive-through ATMs, never stopped being funny to me for some reason. The car stuff is because for most Americans driving is a necessity. You, or someone close to you, should have enough car knowledge to drive and do basic maintenance so that you're not confined to your suburban neighborhood. How it's not normal to take the piss out of your friends and even causal acceptances. It definitely can be normal in the US, but it does seem regional. I had to tone it down when I moved from my hometown. And generally reserved for long-time good friends, not so much for acquaintances or new friends as it can come off as overly familiar, as well as overly aggressive. Agreed. In Texas we are way meaner to each other than was accepted for the 3 years I lived in PA. Up there I was considered too harsh and mean. Keeping my shoes on when walking into someone's home. I feel like a barbarian. 15 years later, I still haven't been to enough American homes to see one where they keep their shoes on. 43 years in the US and I can't tell you a home where people left their shoes on. Truck nuts. Like why? We used to lock them onto each other's trucks in high school as a joke. Once you figured out how to take them off you'd find a clever way to attach it to another friend's truck. Went on for about a year before someone cut them with a steel cutting saw thing. Was pretty funny, not hugging, kissing on cheek or handshake when saying hi to family. I'm from South America. Funny how some people are saying Americans are too touchy and others are saying not touchy enough. My immigrant wife has had to learn not to publicly state any broad generalizations whatsoever about racial/ethnic groups. Such things are commonly said in other countries but are less acceptable in the US. Lol, my boyfriend was a Thai monk for a few years and he also says that making these statements are a very common thing. People are apparently extremely racist in Thailand. I mean, we've got them here too, so I get what I'm saying. We're just as bad. Just less showy ABT it. https://www.washingtonpost.com/news/worldview/wp/2013/05/15/a fascinating map of the world's most and least racially tolerant countries. This little study seems relevant to the topic. As you can see, the US and most Western culture ranks pretty well in racial tolerance. Southeast Asia, not so much. A friend of mine is Russian. Her parents came to Russia and was still getting used to America. In Russia, when you are pulled over by the police, you get of the car and walk over to them. Her dad got pulled over and so he got out and started walking towards them. He didn't know you are supposed to stay in the car. He learned that lesson very quickly. Edit, he didn't die, they didn't even shoot at him. He did get arrested though. This varies somewhat even within the US. I grew up in Louisiana, where if the police pull you over you're supposed to signal that you're going to turn, then pull over at the nearest safe location. For example, if there's a McDonald's ahead you're expected to pull into the parking lot. It keeps everyone safe from passing traffic. When I moved to Virginia I learned pretty quickly that you're basically expected to stop immediately, even if it means stopping in the middle of the road. When I pulled into the local parking lot instead, the officer was quite agitated and asked me if I'd been trying to run. Bizarre. Back in Washington, cops appreciated when I turned on my hazards and pulled off into a safe area and turned on my dome light once parked. Got me out of a couple speeding tickets. As a woman, when I first moved to the US, I felt like there was something wrong with me because I didn't do my nails, or color my hair, or wear makeup like my friends did. The way I grew up, women who were not celebrities didn't do stuff like that at that frequency. I felt like maybe I wasn't feminine enough because those things seemed so tied to femininity. That's pretty much what the advertisements want you to feel like. That way you'll start using them and continue for the rest of your life. Saying hi, how are you? To strangers and nobody actually answering the question. The size of food serving when going out to eat. Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And lastly, the fact that every form I have to fill out, they ask my race. I guess these are not technically social customs, or maybe they are, but I find all of the above very strange. I'll never get used to living here. Come to Boston, you won't have to deal with strangers saying anything to you. Name checks out. Store employees and waiters asking you if you want anything. No matter how long I'm here, it still feels weird and vaguely rude to me, though I know it isn't meant to be. On a lighter note, guessing which foods would be too sweet for me was fun. I still remember the one and last time that I bought canned beans in tomato sauce. Month/date/year instead of the logical date/month/year. We write it how we say it. It makes sense to me. August 12th. Not the 12th of August. That's too long. Pledge of Allegiance. There's literally no other country that I've ever been to that does this. This is so strange and I feel so uncomfortable whether or not I do it. Using the word patriotic in a good way. Seriously, I'd always thought it meant blindly loving your country and think it's the best, which that definition would fit a lot of Americans better. Hearing bless you every time I sneeze. I'll probably get used to it someday. Everything can be turned into politics and it now becomes the matter of whether you're left or right. Why can't they just agree that a very wide variety of matters doesn't have anything to do with politics and your political opinion doesn't have to dictate everything? Nationalistic is the word you're looking for. Patriotic doesn't mean you can't find faults in your nation, quite the opposite. Nationalists blindly believe that everything that their country does is the best and that everyone else should be like them. The best way to put it I've heard is that patriots love their country and want to see it get better, while nationalists love their country and want to silence anyone who doesn't.